and happy Wednesday. This is Jamie with Meyer Games, and today is a huge day for us. This is our monthly e-newsletter, which includes a game announcement that I have been waiting to talk about for a long, long time. And I'm here as usual to answer any questions that you have, any non-spoiler questions, and to discuss some random topics. Before I jump in and before people really start to join us from wherever you are, if you're a regular attendee or if you are joining us from the e-newsletter for the first time, or if you're watching this in the future on YouTube, which is where I post this, I'll mention the chocolate of the day. I always do chocolate of the day, and this was actually sent to me from Ryan, who helped out with one of the things that I'll talk about in a minute related to the game that I'll be talking about today, Red Rising. I can say the name of the game now. I can finally say it. It's Red Rising is the game. But Ryan sent this chocolate. I look forward to trying out this chocolate today after this live cast. I will look over at the questions in a minute, but let me get some big news out of the way. I see a lot of people are joining us. Today is the day that I can finally say that we are publishing Red Rising, the tabletop game, the board game. I have a lot to say about this. I'm sure you have some questions that I will answer over the next few weeks. There might be some questions that I can answer today, so feel free to ask. If I can't answer, I won't answer it. But I'll give you the core details, which is that Red Rising is a tabletop game for 1 to 6 players that plays in about 45 to 60 minutes. Has been a passion project of mine for over 5 years now. I absolutely love the Red Rising books, and I've wanted to publish and design, or publish and not be the designer for a tabletop game in this world for a long time. And finally, with the help of my coworker Alex, who was not a coworker at the time when we co-designed this, but Alex and I, after I had many failed attempts to design this, and after we got submissions for some games that were very good but just not quite what I was looking for, Alex and I came up with an idea that actually worked. And I am so happy and excited to present this game to you. As you can see, I'm holding up the collector's edition box because there will be 2 versions of this game, exactly the same in terms of gameplay. We're going to be selling the collector's edition directly on our web store, pre-orders in March, and retailers around the world will be selling the standard version. The versions are very, very similar. I'll get into the differences probably over the next few days in the design diary post. They're very similar, and I want to emphasize exactly the same in terms of gameplay. But the collector's edition is a little fancier if you are looking for the collector's edition, the fancy version. As you can see on the box, I don't know, this is the top of the box. I'm not going to spoil anything that's in the game yet, but it has some gold foil right here. It has spot UV, as you can see from the shininess of the box, and every box will be individually numbered. A few other things I can say off the bat that you can see from the box. Again, I'm the designer. I co-designed this with Alexander Schmidt, my coworker. And we have 3 artists for this. The first artist was Justin Wong. I'll get into the story of the art in a design diary, but the first artist was Justin Wong. He created a lot of the art for the game. And then Jackie Davis, who did Euphoria, currently did the art for Reload on Kickstarter, and Miles Bensky, who also did some of the art for Rolling Realms, came in to finish the art and do a wonderful job finishing the character art in this game. And the box art. Jackie did the box art. And of course, the game is based on the series by Pierce Brown. All right, that's the big news. I will be happy to talk about it. I'm going to jump over and look at questions today. If I missed your question in the comments, please let me know because Facebook kind of scrolls past them sometimes. So I'm going to jump right in and see what I can answer. Julia says, who made the solo mode for Red Rising? As always, Ultima Factory made the solo mode for our games. It's always a fairly robust solo mode, thanks to the hard work for the folks at Ultima Factory. Yes, Elaine just said he just put the book on hold at the library. And yes, if you have not read the Red Rising books, I highly encourage you to check them out. They're wonderful books. One of the reasons I wanted to make this game is to introduce more people to the books, and I hope the game is also welcoming to people who already know the books. The game will not spoil anything from the books. It's not that type of game, and reading the books won't spoil anything from the game. Arthur says, so what does Codename Gold stand for? Yeah, so the codename I used for a long time in this game was Gold, Codename Gold, until today, and now I've revealed that the game is Red Rising. The reason I use that code for this specific game is that in the world of Red Rising, there is a dystopian societal structure based on colors. And it's not really the exact same as skin color in our world, but the different people in this world do have a variety of colors, all the colors of the rainbow, really. And people are kind of genetically sorted into different castes. It's not a good thing. The book doesn't glorify this. It is a bad thing. It's a dystopia. Um, but at the top of this pyramid are the golds. The golds are kind of the elites in this world. Hence, codename Gold. All right, let's scroll down and look at some more questions here while I see what I've missed. Brian says, can you tell us what a passion project means to you? How does that differ from game to game? Yeah, that's a great question. I am passionate and truly love all of the games that we publish. We don't publish a lot of games, and so I put a lot of time and effort and love into all of our games. I wouldn't publish something if I didn't truly love it. This is a little special though because this is an IP, an intellectual property that I fell in love with before I even thought to design a game. Before I think I can't remember exactly when the first book came out, but I think it was before I even started Stonemaier Games. Um, and so this is a different type of passion where I fell in love with the world building, the characters, the story, before I had the opportunity to even design the game. Yeah. Let's see. Just scrolling down, looking for questions right now. Joel says, "How do we pledge?" Yeah, that's it. I'll answer that. So we don't use Kickstarter. So I know a lot of you are used to pre-ordering on Kickstarter or pledging on Kickstarter. We don't use Kickstarter. Rather, we've already made this game. This game is on boats right now, on the way to fulfillment centers around the world. So you don't have to wait a year to get this game. Instead, we're going to have a pre-order in March, and when the games arrive at the fulfillment centers, which will probably be around late March based on the current world of freight shipping, we will start shipping the games to you. So the pre-order will be in March. I don't have an exact date yet. It'll probably be early March, maybe mid-March, depending on the state of freight shipping. Carol says, how far do you think people should be in the book series, to get the full thematic experience from the game? Yeah, it's an interesting question, Carol. You don't have to read the books at all to play the game, to enjoy the game, to even start to get some of the references in the games, the interactions between the characters in the game. It is not a plot-driven game. This isn't a campaign game. This isn't something where there are story points that are spoiled or anything like that. The book series is divided into two trilogies, one which is finished, one which is not finished. And so if you want to, I guess, prepare for the game just to have a little fun, to understand some of the little winks to different characters and things in the books, in the game, you could go ahead and read the first trilogy while you wait for your copy to arrive. Matt says, what led to the decision and why to have two different editions? Why not have the add-ons available for purchase? Not complaining, he's getting the collector's edition. Yeah, Matt, so last year around this time, I had a blog post about deluxe editions for games. And at the time, I hadn't really decided yet what we were going to do with Red Rising, if we were going to have a collector's edition, a special edition, or separate add-ons. But it seemed like the right thing to do for fans of Red Rising. I thought that they would like to have a special box that said Collector's Edition, that had the individual numbering, and certain components that we added, or one specific component really that we added to the Collector's Edition, just didn't work well as an add-on. So normally that is our way of doing things. Like we'll have the core game and maybe some metal coins that you can buy separately. But it just it seemed like a better fit here to have two different versions of the game. And we like to experiment. We like to try different things. And we thought this was a special way to kind of celebrate retailers and distributors by giving them a version of the game that we're not even going to sell. So only they have it. It's a lower price game, very easy to sell on the mass market, or to a lot of people who just want to try the game. I won't talk about the exact pricing yet, but it is definitely lower price than the collector's edition. And by offering the collector's edition directly, we can actually offer a really good price on that as well. It won't be overinflated like sometimes you see really highly priced collector's editions. That won't be the case here because we're selling it directly. All right, I'm definitely missing some comments here, so let me scroll down a little bit. If I missed your question, feel free to repeat it. I'm not ignoring anything unless you've asked a spoiler question. Mike says, would you do plastic meeples again like in Pendulum, or any of your games? Do you think that wooden meeples are what you would use in the future? Yeah, I would use wooden meeples again. I think the plastic meeple decision was a mistake that I made in Pendulum. I think plastic pieces do work in certain circumstances. I don't think anyone cares about plastic cubes. That's totally fine to have plastic cubes versus wooden cubes, and maybe even certain figures. But meeples, I think in particular, it's something about the gaming psyche. We like to see wooden meeples. Spencer said, oh, here are some questions that I missed that I can still answer real quick. Spencer says, is this a true card game? It is a card-driven game, but it does have a board and other pieces. So not a true card game, I would say, but heavily card-driven. Tim says, are there any connections to Euphoria? No, but if you enjoy the dystopian aspect of Red Rising, I think you'll enjoy Euphoria, or vice versa. If you enjoy the dystopia in Euphoria, you might enjoy Red Rising. Richard's, let's see, Richard asked, what are the differences between the collector's edition and the standard edition? I won't go into that yet, but as I kind of said, it's only component differences. There are no gameplay differences between the two versions. All right, let's see. Arthur asked a gameplay questions here. I'm not going to talk about gameplay yet. I did reveal on our website that this is a hand management card-driven game with combos. It's hugely about building combos. And I will say it's largely inspired by Fantasy Realms. This is definitely a heavier game than Fantasy Realms. So if you've played Fantasy Realms, you know what that feels like. You're building a hand of cards. You're creating combos with those cards. You're getting rid of cards that don't fit those combos as well. That is very much kind of the core of Red Rising. Simon asked, I'm missing questions here, but I saw that Simon asked a question about Brexit. Brexit doesn't really impact what we're doing at all, other than if you are not in the UK and you order from us, we will ship to you from the UK, from our fulfillment center in the UK, and we will pay the duties up front so you don't have to. That's really the only difference with Brexit, that sometimes you would have to pay the duties, not the case when you order from Stonemaier Games. Todd says, when will reviewers get copies and when can they post the reviews? Advanced copy reviewers already have their copies of the game and they are working on playing the game and gathering their thoughts. They have plenty of time to do so. They will be posting their thoughts. I believe it's February 22nd is when they can start to do that, when they can start to share their thoughts. Those are advanced copy reviewers that already have their games. Paul says, do you have to know the books to play the game? Not at all, no. In fact, one of the reasons I designed this game with Alex is that, and published the game, is that I want to introduce people to the books. I want people to play this game and be like, oh, I want to learn more about these characters so that they can go read the books that I love so much. No, missed a question there. I'm going to keep scrolling down a little bit. I'm definitely missing questions. Just repost. I'll answer them. I'll skip questions that maybe I'm not ready to answer yet, like questions about gameplay. Lays says, is this a card-driven game? It is. Oh, Mackenzie's joining us. Mackenzie's had a new baby. Mackenzie usually is one of our advanced copy reviewers, but she has a new baby, and so she won't. I'm not sending Mackenzie a review copy, an advanced review copy. But Mackenzie, when you're ready to start talking about games again on the Meeple Street, I'm happy to send you a copy. Ian says, how is it working with a co-designer? Yeah, this is the first game in a long time that I've worked with a co-designer on the core game. I'll definitely have a design diary post about this, but I will say it was awesome. It was awesome to work with Alex on this game. He was the perfect co-designer. It was really the most balanced co-design for a core game that I've ever had because we really did share in the work and share in the collaboration. Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. Carrie says, would I call this a deck building game? No, I wouldn't call this a deck building game. Sean says, have you taken the personality test to see which faction you'd be in? I have. I took it when I set it up a few weeks ago. And where did I end up? I think I ended up in Minerva, but it may have been Mars. I need to retake it to see. But yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because we set up a Red Rising themed personality quiz to sort you into the different houses that will appear in the game. So if you like Harry Potter house sorting quizzes, go to the Red Rising page on our website. It's just 3 questions. It'll take like 20 seconds to go through this quiz, and you'll get a little image at the end that shows which house you're in, and you can use that image as an avatar in the Red Rising Facebook group if you want. But yeah, take the personality quiz and let me know what house that you sort into. And before I forget, I also want to mention that one of the big things, even if you're on our general e-newsletter, go to the Red Rising page of our website and sign up for a launch notification for the pre-order. I should have mentioned this before. This is big for you to do that because for every sign up we get before February 16th, which is not the pre-order date, it's just a date that I chose to kind of end this collection of emails. For every email we get by that date, we're going to donate $1 to the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, to protect and serve those who are marginalized and underrepresented in our society, because that's a big part of what Red Rising is about. And so I want to give as much money as possible to the ACLU based on everyone who signs up. So please, even if you're already on our e-newsletter, If you believe in protecting the rights of those who are underrepresented and marginalized, please enter your email there so that we can donate $1 for every person who does that to that awesome organization. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down. I'm definitely going to miss some questions here. Simon says, can you tell us a little bit more about your co-designer? I'll talk about it more in a design diary, but Alexander Schmidt is someone who's been designing games for a while. He doesn't have a published game yet. He has a friend in St. Louis in my gaming group, and he also happens to be the Stonemaier Games director of sales. He wasn't in that role when we co-designed the game, but Alex's specialty, I would say, even though this isn't what Red Rising is, Alex's specialty are cooperative campaign games. He plays a lot of those. So in the future, I might work with him on a cooperative game. But this is not a cooperative game. This is a competitive game, and it's also not a campaign game. Let's see. Giuliano says, can I comment on the complexity rate? We tried to make this game really, really streamlined, even though there are a lot of deep decisions to make. So in terms of learning the game, you can learn this game in about 3 or 4 minutes. It's very easy to get into and learn. But the depth of the decisions are pretty deep. So I would say it's probably going to end up around a 2.5 on the BGG scale. That's my guess. Kyle says, how did working with an established IP compared to a game based on original content? Is this something you would want to do again? It was. I definitely have some stories to tell there in a design diary. It is a process. I mean, it is definitely a process to talk to the person who owns the rights, to talk to Pierce, to talk to his literary agent, to talk to his lawyers, to get all that stuff sorted out. And the process took a while. I would say it took a little bit longer than I hoped, especially the legal side of it. But once we got all that worked out, I mean, working with Pierce is very easy. I tried to make it very easy for him. I didn't really try not to bug him at all because I want him to continue writing books. That's what he specializes in. So I tried to send as few emails to Pierce as possible. But it was still there are other stories to tell there. I'll answer them in more detail in a design diary post. Tim says, would you ever be up for some more crossover promos? I don't know. We kind of moved away from doing many promos for our game, so I don't know. We don't have any in mind right now. Edgar asked, "Are we gonna? Do we know the release date for the game? Are there any cats in Red Rising?" I think there are some cats. I don't know if we snuck Biddy and Walter in there. Usually we do. I don't know if we did this time. As for the release schedule, we will. We will. The pre-order will be in March with shipping fulfillment for the pre-order in like late March, early April, and then we'll announce the retail release date later. Javi says, how many players does it accommodate? It's a 1 to 6 player game. Red Rising is. I'll just keep the box here. Let's see. John Williams says, are we going to release a wooden token upgrade pack for Pendulum? No, we don't plan on doing that. Let's see, just scrolling down. Clint says, is there a star-shaped component? Because we do have stars in a lot of our games. I don't think there is. No, I don't think there's a star-shaped component in this one. Hendrik says, with the collector's edition components, how will future expansions be impacted if there are some? That's a good question. Based on the components we chose, I don't think that'll be a problem. But if it does present a need for a division, we'll just sell a collector's edition expansion, and then in retail we'll sell the standard edition. Yeah, kind of like what we're doing for the core game. That's a great question though to think about. Zach says, will there be a Red Rising realm included in Rolling Realms? We are making a printed version of the print and play game Rolling Realms. And that's a good question, Zach. You'll have to find out when we release the game. Steiner asked, is there asymmetry in the game? And I'll go into that in more detail in the future. But yes, there is light asymmetry in this game. Some specific spoiler questions. I'm going to skip over spoiler questions. I think that'll probably be easier if I do that. Let's see. Simon says, how is the gameplay tied to the theme of Red Rising? That's something I'll definitely get into detail more later. But yeah, the theme of Red Rising, the world, the characters had a huge impact on what we designed in this game. And really it comes down to this. I'll answer in general, which is after trying many different versions of this game, I realized that the core thing about Red Rising that makes it so special for me are the characters. The characters and their interactions, which characters like other characters or don't like other characters, and based on the different casts that they're in, how that leads to the decisions they make or the things they are able to do. That's what's really fascinating to me about Red Rising. And so that is what influenced the mechanisms in the game. Mitzer says, what is the timeline for release looking like? Yeah, so we're going to do the pre-order in March with fulfillment for that pre-order later in March, early April, and then the retail release date will be a few months after that. Let's see. Reed says, "Do I have any updates from Pierce on book 6?" No, I don't. I don't bug Pierce on spoilers. I just let him write, and I will enjoy it when he gets to book 6. Javi says, "Does the game intend to recreate the Red Rising story, or is it just the rival of the houses in the story?" It definitely does not try to create the story. It is not a plot driven thing, plot driven game because we don't want to spoil anything. One of the reasons I designed this game and published this game with Alex is that we want to introduce more people to the world of Red Rising, to the books. So this is a character driven game, but it doesn't go into plot points. Let's see. Ian says, is this a standalone game or is it one that will see a stream of content for LCG style? It is very much a standalone game. There's the possibility that after Pierce finishes the second trilogy, that we might do an expansion that's related to that trilogy. But yeah, it is very much a standalone game. Lee's says, is there a series on HBO of this or Netflix? There isn't, but I would love to watch a live action or even an animated version of Red Rising someday. That would be incredible. Matt asked for the table presence or the size of the game on the table. It can actually be, it has a not a huge, it doesn't take up a lot of the table. I think some of the components, especially in the collector's edition, have great table presence. As you can see, the colors of the game are vibrant. But yeah, it doesn't take up a lot of room. You could play this on a small table. Chris says, when did this version start to take shape after your previous tries? Yeah. Thank you for that question because I have tried many times to design this game and failed. I even have a video on our YouTube channel about how I have tried to design this game and how I failed many times. This game finally clicked. I believe it was not last spring, but 2 springs ago, spring of 2019, that Alex and I had a moment where we were playing Fantasy Realms at game night, and we noticed something about the game that made us realize that thing could work in Red Rising, or that format could work for Red Rising. So I think that was around the time that I started to work on it, and we quickly realized that it actually worked. Yeah. Jake says, "Can I talk about the components?" I can, but I won't yet. I appreciate you asking. I'll delve into the components over the course of the design diaries over the next couple days. But yeah, it is kind of a standard size game box, and there are reasons for that. Yeah. Brett says, how many pages is the rule book? I believe it is an 8-page rule book. The rules are very simple. The core of the game is very simple. The depth comes from the variety of cards in the game and some of the choices that you make on the board. Nathan asked if there's a scythe Easter egg on the cover. It's not a scythe Easter egg exactly, but it is a little wink to scythe, yeah. Joseph says, which Stonemaier game is this the closest to? Thematically, it's the closest to Euphoria. In terms of gameplay, it's pretty different actually than any other game that we have. So I don't know if I would compare it to any other Stonemaier game. Sion says, is there a board? There is a board in the game, yeah. Carrie says, so who was the co-designer someone who responded to your 2018 call for ideas for Red Rising? He wasn't, no. Alex is just a friend in a gaming group who likes to design games, and yeah. We did play some great submissions from people who saw that I failed to design the Red Rising game but still wanted to publish one. Got some great submissions, but none of them were quite what I was looking for the game. Yeah. Someone asked about interaction. Yeah, there definitely are player interactions in this game. But it's not like all of our games, it's not a take that game. But there are, I mean, you very much have to pay attention to other players, and there are some direct interactions with players. Let's see. Ian says, I may have missed this. What exactly does the collector's edition have besides a fancy box? Yeah, you haven't missed anything. I haven't gone into that yet. The core thing to remember, and to tell people if they ask about this, is that the gameplay for the collector's edition and the retail version is exactly the same. And some of the components that are upgraded or nicer or slightly different. And there's one additional component in this box. Catherine says, how long would it take to play a 6-player game assuming everyone knows the rules? 45 to 60 minutes. is really the range of the game. It doesn't. It can even go a little bit shorter for two players. Maybe for the learning game, it can go a little bit longer. But yeah, there's a timer for the game that'll go into in the design diary that scales up well for six players. So yeah, I would say probably an hour at most, unless you have some really analysis paralysis players. Jazz says, oh, Jazz has a similar question about the gameplay time length. Yeah. Chad says, is the girl on your website's header image EO? And yes, yeah. So if you go to the Stonemaier Games Facebook page, I uploaded, and even the homepage for the Stonemaier Games website, you can see an image that says, which world will you visit today? And on the far left is one of the characters from Red Rising, EO. Reed says, is there a lag with the pre-order notification sign up? I've entered my info and it asked me to confirm by clicking a link in a follow-up email, but he hasn't gotten it. Not that I know, but it is possible. I mean, it might be getting a lot of emails right now, so maybe there is a little bit of a lag there. It's also possible I don't have it set up correctly for getting a confirmation email. So if anyone has tried to sign up for that and hasn't gotten a confirmation email, let me know and I will look at that. I'll make a note of that after the live cast. Again, Facebook is scrolling past a lot of questions here, so if I miss something, just ask again. Barry says, do you need to know the book series to enjoy the game? And I would say not at all. I've played this with people who don't know anything about the game, and that was one of the questions we asked to blind playtesters a lot. Do you know the series? Do you not? How does it impact your experience? And I think at best it piques your curiosity, or the goal is that it piques your curiosity about the series, but you don't need to know the series at all to play the game. Let me scroll down here. Let's see. Denny says, how long have you been working on the design for this game? A little under 2 years. Yeah. But it came together pretty quickly. I think the entire design took about a year to complete. Carol says, how exciting was it to work with an author for a series that I love? And it was awesome. I mean, I tried to keep I tried to respect Pierce's time. And so I asked him very few questions. I basically ran the cover of the box by him. And I sent him an early copy of the game to make sure there wasn't anything we missed before we went into full-on production. And there were a few other random questions here and there, but I didn't get to work with Pierce all that much, but it is fun being able to correspond with an author that I admire so much. Damien says, will the game be playable for people who are colorblind? Great question. Very much so. Yeah, the colors are really important in the game, but we used both words and patterns to help players distinguish the different colors in the games. So if you are playing if you have a green character card in hand, not only is it green, but it has a unique texture, a unique pattern, and it also says green, the word green on it. Yeah. Let's see, scrolling down here. Some people are asking about inserts. I'll go into that later. Yeah, I'm not going to reveal that today, but I appreciate your curiosity about inserts. Mark says, how does component quality compare to a game like Wingspan? I guess, yeah, Wingspan is heavily card driven, so maybe that's the closest comparison to Red Rising, even though what you're actually doing in the game is very different. Component quality, I would say, is pretty similar. I mean, Wingspan has those beautiful eggs that we don't have a direct comparison to that in Red Rising, but Red Rising, especially the collector's edition, has some components that are unique as well. It's hard to compare the two. I mean, they're completely different games, and we always try to have nice components in our games. Adam says, are there any ideas for expansions? Already talking about expansions. If when Pierce completes the second trilogy, that's when we might consider making making an expansion for the game. So we don't really have any ideas for that yet. We're going to wait until we see how the second trilogy closes. Gel says, how would I say this game is in comparison to other Stonemaier games? Someone just mentioned Wingspan as a comparison. I would say Wingspan is probably the closest comparison to Red Rising. Red Rising is a slightly shorter game than Wingspan, but it is kind of it is a card-driven game with text on the cards that you need to read and understand to play those cards. Let's see. Ahmed says, will this go to Kickstarter? No, we don't use Kickstarter. We haven't used Kickstarter for a long time. Rather, we have already made this game. It's complete. It's on the boats right now. So if you pre-order from us in March, you will get your copy in late March or early April. James asked a good question here. Is the collector's edition a limited run? And no. I mean, there is a limit. So we have like first printing printed here on the box. So there is a limit to the number of first printing copies of the collector's edition. But like with anything we make, if there is interest for us to make more collector's edition copies someday, we will do that. But there's only one first print run of the collector's edition. George says, is this the collector's edition game that will be available only at the pre-order? And that's not exactly correct. It's not that it'll be only available at the pre-order. It's that the only way to get the collector's edition is to order it directly from Stonemaier Games. And Stonemaier Games also won't be selling the standard edition, at least for the foreseeable future. That will just go through retailers and distributors. Yeah. Let's see. Simon says, will the collector's edition be available in other languages? All of our other partners have opted just to go with the standard edition. Yeah, so they'll have the other language versions of this game will be the standard edition of the game. Mario says, do I have a page on Board Game Geek for the game? Yes, there is a Board Game Geek page for Red Rising that you can check out. It looks like Danielle did get a confirmation email from MailChimp for signing up for the launch notification, to which we will donate $1 to the ACLU for Danielle. Thank you, Danielle, for doing that. And so I'm glad you confirmed that. So it means that the confirmation email is working. Maybe it's just taking a little slower, or it's going to your spam or promotions folder. Let's see. I appreciate a few different people also confirmed that. Thank you. Giuliano says, is the card dependency similar to Terraforming Mars? No, I mean, completely different games, but still, I mean, cards that you need to pay attention to. Cards are important in the game. Again, the closest similarity is Fantasy Realms, even though the Red Rising is a heavier game than Fantasy Realms. Got some good questions about gameplay here, but I'm not going to go into too specifics about gameplay yet. That'll emerge in the Design Diary posts. I do appreciate your curiosity, though. Again, I see some questions about exact component counts, exact components. I'll reveal that later, too. Today, we're really just announcing the game and sharing my excitement for the game. Let's see. Rudy says, has Megan played it, and did she beat me at Red Rising? Megan has played it 3 times with me, twice 2-player and once, and this is the final version of the game that we played, and once 4-player. Can't remember. I'm sure she won at least one of those. I don't remember how many she won, though. But she is very good at this style of game, so I wouldn't be surprised if she won most of those games. Yeah. Let's see. Some questions, more questions about gameplay components that I won't go into specifics for today. A couple of different people asking about if the localized versions of this game will have a collector's edition. All of our localization partners have chosen, they had kind of a choice, and they opted to go with the standard edition. But it's possible if they hear from enough of you to say that they want, that you want the collector's edition components, we can produce those components separately. It would just be the box that would be different, but you could, there is the possibility of that happening if you request it from them. But also, probably the easier way is that we will produce an update pack. So if you want to support your local retailer, that's awesome. Go to them, get the standard version, and then we will have an update pack, a collector's edition update pack on our web store at some point in the future where you can get those components and add them to your game. That might be an easier way as well to do that. If you want like the French version of the game, you can get that from Matago and then order the upgrade pack from us. Brian says, is there an ideal player count from your experience playtesting? You know, we try to stand behind the numbers that we put on the box. I wouldn't put a number on the box if we didn't truly believe in it. So I love the game from 2 to 6 players, and I think Automa Factory did a fantastic job with the 1-player solo mode. So I stand behind all those player counts. Danielle says, can you talk about Daniel says, can I talk about the previous iterations of the game? That I'll go into detail in a Design Diary post because there's a lot of stories there, a lot of different things that I tried. But I think one of the things that I tried the most was a worker placement and bag building with workers of every different color in the game, in the world, in the game. And I just could not get that to work. So I'll talk about that more in detail, but that was one of the things that I tried a couple different times. Joshua says, is Pierce a board gamer? Pierce does play some board games. In fact, one of the ways when I was like pitching the game to him, I said, I'll send you any of our games if you want to try our games, see the types of things that we make. And Pierce apparently loves Scythe. He really, really loves Scythe. I think the last time I heard from him, he said he was undefeated at Scythe. So I thought that was pretty cool to hear. Scott asked a very similar question there. Yeah. Kevin says, are there only going to be, Kevin throws out the number 10,000. That's not a number that we've announced. Are there only going to be a set number of copies of the collector's edition? There will be a set number of first printing copies because we've already made them. But we are open to making more in the future if enough people want the collector's edition. Or, like I said, you can order the standard edition from your local retailer, and we will have update packs that you can order from us to get the collector's edition components. Mark says, will there be a player aid? I guess that is a component question, but yeah, there will be a player aid. Yeah, absolutely. One for each player. Jay has let's see, I'm going to go past gameplay component questions that I'm not ready to answer yet. Those are spoilers. Eddie says, does the game's theme focus mostly on the first book or the first trilogy? The first trilogy. The game is populated with a lot of different characters, and those characters come from the first trilogy. Randy says, with the difficulty rate pretty low, will this be considered a gateway game? Pretty close to it, yeah. I mean, I would say the text on the cards might be a little daunting for a new gamer, but if they love Red Rising, we basically tried to make the game accessible to fans of the Red Rising book series while still making it a good, meaty experience for experienced gamers who might discover the world of Red Rising through the game. So we tried to, that was a tricky balance, but we tried to have that go both ways. So I would say it's like a gateway plus. Yeah. Liz says, do I know if the author played the game you sent him? Yes. Pierce did play. So I sent Pierce a very early copy of the game so we could see what we were doing with it, just in case we drastically did something wrong with a character or the art, something like that. And Pierce played it. He said he really enjoyed it. And I don't know if he's played like the actual final published version of the game because he just got it a few days ago. Yeah. Daniel says, does it play well at 2 players? I think it plays fantastically at 2 players. Yeah. But that's my personal bias, my personal opinion as the co-designer of the game. Philip Assa has a price point been announced. No, we don't announce the price until the actual pre-order day, which will be in March. Seth says, is the game based around? I don't want to spoil anything from the books here. His question has a slight spoiler. So this is a character-driven game. It's not a story or plot-driven game. So it's driven by the characters in Red Rising. Yeah. Cody says he's noticed that the finish on the box is glossy instead of matte. So it is a matte box, but it has spot UV on the colors, the lines of colors. So we did that. That's a way to make the box feel a little extra fancy. And we even did something extra. In addition to it being spot UV, there's also gold foil on the sides of the box. See that gold foil there? Yeah. But it is a matte box. Zach says, is this Megan's new favorite Stonemaier game? I'll have to ask her about that if that's true. Dave says, any videos of gameplay yet? No, I mean, today, Dave, is just the announcement of what that the game exists. And over the next few days, we'll get into what's in the game, and then we'll reveal gameplay videos, the rule book, and reviews, things like that. Yeah. Christoph also said complexity level, around 2.5, I would say. Yeah. Christy says, would the collector's edition be available for international shipping to Asia Pacific countries? Yeah, we ship worldwide. We ship from the US to many places, but we also ship from Canada to Canada, from UK to all of Europe, and then from a fulfillment center in Australia to Australia and New Zealand. Yeah. Let's see. So, and again, if you want a launch notification for when we launch this game, go to the Red Rising page of our website and click on the button that says notify me upon launch and put your email in there so we can let you know when we launch the pre-order for this game. That'll be in March. Kim says, do we pick a house to play as? And does that mean there's asymmetric play? There is light asymmetry in the game, and yes, you will either pick a house or randomly be assigned a house. But if you also want to have some fun before you play the game, go to our website and take the house personality quiz to see which house you're sorted into. And you can even use that house the first time you play. Tim says, can I read all of the entire first trilogy of Red Rising before the pre-orders open? I think you it depends on how fast you read, but yeah, I think it is possible to read the first trilogy at least before you get your copy of the game in late March. Yeah. Mark says, how much design development time goes into a project like this? When does, you said Mordred, when does Morton get to begin his work? So I guess a broad answer to that question is we spent about a year designing and developing this game. It takes a lot of time. And Morton, I fill him in. Morton's the guy that runs Automata Factory, the solo mode. I typically start to fill him in throughout the process as the game takes shape. I don't want to get him too involved until the game has taken shape. and he officially like really starts working on it when the multiplayer version is finished or almost finished. Yeah. Fico says that I worked together with a book author when doing the design. I tried really not to bother Pierce. Like Pierce's goal is to write awesome books, and I want him to do that. And so there were a few key moments where I went to Pierce and said, "Is this okay?" Like I sent him the cover of the book, "Is this of the game? Is this okay?" But Pierce trusted me to design the game, and so I tried not to bother him with questions about that. But I did send him an early copy of the game just to make sure that we hadn't really missed something or screwed something up with the game. That was before we entered production, so we could still make changes if necessary before we did that. Randy says, is this considered a gateway game? I would say it's a gateway plus game. Christian says, will there be a Dutch version? That is for 999 games to reveal. So feel free to ask them. Tom says, is this thinky versus fun? I think a little bit of both. I think thinky can be fun. I think fun can be thinky. And I think that's the case in Red Rising. Derek says, what is it like for me the night before a new game or product announcement? It feels like the night before Christmas for me as a kid. I am so excited. It is hard for me to sleep. It is one of the main things that I'm thinking about. I'm nervous too. I'm nervous if we got everything lined up right. Yeah. That's the closest comparison I can think of. David says, what drew me to turn the Red Rising trilogy into a new game? Really, it was my love of the books. I loved the Red Rising trilogy, and when when game design became my career and game publishing became my career, it was the IP I wanted to share with the world. I want more people to discover this amazing series of books, and so yeah, that's what it was. That was the root of it. Yeah. Betsy says, do I have a favorite character from the series? Ooh. Well, yeah, I have a lot of favorite characters. It's hard to narrow down to exactly one. The main character, Darrow, is fascinating to watch. I love some of the tough leadership decisions he has to make and how he makes those decisions. I don't always love the decisions he makes, but he is fascinating to watch. I like Severo. I think Severo is a lot of fun to watch. Um, uh, yeah, I don't know. Those are the two that jump out at me off the top of my head. Those are two kind of the easier answers too. But yeah, I don't know. I need to have a set answer for that because I need to be able to answer that for Red Rising fans, I think. Let's see. Dusty says, is this going to be on Board Game Arena, Tabletop Simulator, and Tabletopia? That's a great question. It will be on Tabletopia for sure, and I'm hoping that we can get a Board Game Arena implementation as well. I need to actually check in with Board Game Arena about that. Yeah. Kevin says, oh, Kevin mentioned 10,000 because the photo says 0 of 10,000. Interesting. Okay, that photo might need to be updated. The photo is off then by a number because that actually isn't the real number. Thank you for letting me know about that. I was wondering where that 10K number came from. Yeah, because that is not actually the correct number. Dave says, will you enjoy the game if you've never read the books? I can't say if you'll enjoy the game. I can say that we designed the game so that it will be enjoyable regardless of whether or not you've read the book. So that was the intent of the design, for sure. Alec has a gameplay question. Let me see if I can answer it. He says, will each player only play with one house during a game? Yeah, that's the light asymmetry in the game, where you have a house in the game and you play the game with that house, and then the next game you can choose a different house. Yeah. Jeffrey has a nice compliment here. Thank you, Jeffrey, for saying that. Let's see. Tony says, not sure if you've answered this, but Tony has a question about price point. I'm not going to go into price point yet. Mario says, will all the houses in the books be represented in the game? No, not all the houses. Just it's a 6-player game, so there are 6 houses in the game. Martin asked, is the game coming in Dutch? That's a question for 999 Games. They can answer that question about if there will be a Dutch version. Maggie says, would I recommend reading the books before playing the game? Will there be spoilers within the game for those who haven't read the books? Definitely no spoilers. It's a character-driven game, so we're not revealing plot points, story, anything like that. I hope you read the books. Whether it's before or after you play the game, I highly recommend the books. But I would say that I've designed the game to be fun. I've designed the game with Alex to be fun, so that even if you haven't read the books, or if you have read the books, either way. Dave says, how much DNA does this share with Fantasy Realms? The core of the game is very similar. It's a hand management game, just as Fantasy Realms is like at its core is a hand management game. I'll go into that in further detail in the design diary post, but I highly recommend Fantasy Realms. You said that it's in your cart. You're deciding whether or not you want to buy it. I highly do recommend Fantasy Realms, and both games can exist in your collection definitely, because Fantasy Realms is a very light filler game. Red Rising is more of a meaty game with a similar mechanism to Fantasy Realms. Raphael says, am I sending out review copies for this one? Yeah, as always, our procedure is that we select a few reviewers for advanced copy reviews. Those reviewers already have their copies of the game. And then out of the hundreds of reviewers who ask for first-run review copies, we will randomly select probably a few dozen of them to get review copies. We can't provide review copies to all like 300 reviewers, but some reviewers will get review copies when the ocean freight shipments arrive. Yeah. Jim says, can we expect a Watch It Played guide? Thanks, Jim. I think I missed your question before, but yes, Rodney from Watch It Played is working on a video for Red Rising. Yeah. Gonzalo says, will we have to rush to get the collector's edition? Is there enough produced? That's always the question. We don't really know, but we did make a lot of copies of the collector's edition because we wanted to meet demand for, I don't know, fans of Red Rising, fans of Stonemaier games. And so I hope we have enough. And if not, we'll make more. Yeah, we can always make more. Arthur has a very specific question about Stonemaier Champions. I guess this is a time to answer it. Arthur says, if the Stonemaier Champion 25% discount goes through, will it be active for Red Rising's pre-order? So yeah, right now we are debating for Stonemaier Champions if we should keep it as a flat $10 discount off all orders from Stonemaier Games, if you're a Stonemaier Champion, or if we should change it to a 25% discount. And if we do make that change, Arthur, we probably will make it before the pre-order, but I'm not exactly sure. But either way, we will make that decision only if it has the support of the majority of champions, and if it is beneficial to champions, specifically for the Red Rising pre-order. Yeah. Marcus says, am I still going to ship from UK to the rest of Europe even after Brexit? Absolutely, yeah. We love working with Spiral Galaxy, and it doesn't impact you at all because we are paying for duties. We are going to pay for the duties so that you don't have to pay for duties. They're DDP, duties, delivery, prepaid. Yeah. So let's see. Chris says, well, I announced the MSRP of the standard edition at the same time as you announced the price of the collector's edition. Yeah, I think we'll do that. We'll announce both at pre-order, when we do the pre-order in March. George says, complexity level 2.5, I would say easy to learn, hard to master. Yeah, a lot of depth in the game. Yeah. Marco says, why did I choose to ship from the UK instead of EU? Because we trust Spiral Galaxy. We've worked with them for a long time. They've done a fantastic job shipping from their fulfillment center in the UK, and we can continue to serve customers in Europe using Spiral Galaxy just the same as we have for many, many years. Because really it's no different to you at all, because we are paying for duties instead of you paying for duties. Michael asked, is Pierce getting royalties on the license? I can't go into the legal stuff behind Red Rising, but yes, generally when someone licenses an IP, the author gets financial benefits for doing that. Yeah. But yeah, this is an officially licensed game of Red Rising, so yeah, he's getting paid for it. Chad says, which house was I selected for? I think I need to go back and take the quiz. I think it was Minerva, but it may have been a different one. But I'll take the house survey after I get off this chat to reiterate that. Sean says, is that Biddy talking to me? I might have missed it. I'm very focused here. It looks like Walter is behind me on the floor. I don't know if you can see. Can you see Walter back there? I have a sticky note here. Yeah, you can kind of see Walter's tail on the floor. Christoph says, Jackie Davis and Justin Wong and Miles Bensky are the artists. I need to add Miles if he isn't on there on Board Game Geek. I'll make a note about that. Who did what? That's a deep story. I'll go into that in the design art post, but there's definitely a story behind the art in this game. The short version is Justin started it and Jackie and Miles finished it. Mitchell says, would I go the IP route again for future games? I don't know if I love many IPs as much as I love Red Rising, as much as I want to share this series with the world. So if there is an IP like that, that something that I really love, that I want to share with more people, that I don't think someone else could do better, I might pursue it. But there there aren't many instances of that. Like I love Marvel and Star Wars and things like that, but those are widely covered by other companies too already. And I don't need to share the news of Star Wars with anybody else at this point. But I do want to share the news about Red Rising with people. Miles says favorite book from the first trilogy. It's hard not to just love the first book. The first book is so special. As big as the second and third books go, I do still have a special place in my heart for that first book. Yeah. Joshua says, I remember you saying that you couldn't get the Red Rising rights. Yeah, it seems you did, but how hard was it to keep a secret? Very hard. Yeah, this has been hard not to talk about for a long time. It was one of these instances where we thought we had the rights, and then I think they got wrapped up maybe in TV and film, and then we didn't have them, and then uh, we did. We got them. It worked out. Yeah. Um, Dan says, is Rodney from Watch It Play doing a how-to video? Yeah, Rodney is going to do a rules replacement video. He has an early copy of the game headed his way right now. And Lisa says, will the Tabletopia version be available before the game releases? Yes, it will. Yeah, we're going to try that for the first time in a while, where you will be able to play the game on Tabletopia before the game releases. I don't, yeah, it's a good implementation. It's not the same as having cards in your hand and on the table, but I think they did a good job with it, and it is ready to put out there before the pre-order. Cody says, yeah, so maybe I should step away and talk about a few other random things real quick. And Cody has a question about something else. He says, I mentioned that I was going to try to play Canvas. And did I have a chance to play it, and did I like it? I did have a chance to play Canvas, and I really liked it. I thought it was a fantastic 30-minute set collection game. In Canvas, you're inserting these clear cards into sleeves to form paintings and form sets within each of those paintings. I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I also played Cloud Age the other day. I played Marvel Villainous with Megan. Played a little bit of Magic online. I played the new Kaldheim set. I played Quetzal and Carnegie on Board Game Arena. And I also played Cloud Age, the new Alexander Pfister game. I'll skim through my other random topics real quick just to keep them brief. We are doing a little Valentine's sale on our website right now. You might have to look around at different products on our website, but you can find certain products are discounted on our website specifically for Valentine's Day, for love languages of giving gifts, of chocolate, and what was the last love language that we did? Uh, wasn't physical touch, wasn't acts of service. Quality time. Quality time was on there too. Um, but we've been watching WandaVision and enjoying it, especially as WandaVision opens up a little bit more. And we ended up watching Age of Ultron again the other day, and that made us want to play Marvel Villainous the other day. I also got Sleeping Gods from Ryan Loggett. This is one of my most anticipated games of 2021. I can't wait to get it to the table. It is a big, heavy game. Um, Looking forward to playing that this weekend, or starting to play it this weekend. I had the vet visit for Biddy the other day to check on his insulin, and his diabetes is doing great. Biddy is one of my cats, in case you don't know that. Recent videos, I did a video this past weekend about my top 10 favorite expansions. I'd done a previous video about that, but it was time to revisit it. So if you want to know some of my favorite expansions, there's a video about that on YouTube. And I also did an article that encouraged people to ask questions publicly on videos like this, on Board Game Geek, on Facebook, things like that, instead of asking privately if the question will benefit other people and if it's not a confidential matter. And most questions that I get aren't. And so I kind of did an article kind of reminding people that if you have a rules question, don't message the creator privately, don't message the designer privately, just ask it publicly. And that way other people who have the same question can benefit from the answer. And it'll probably be answered faster that way too. I had a nice podcast chat with Chris from Tabletop Express last week. That's on YouTube now as well. And I signed a bunch of cards, like Stonemaier Games cards that we produce, like encounter cards and cards from Viticulture. I signed a bunch of them, and I'm hoping to use them in the future for a sale or something like that. I don't really know exactly what I'm going to do with them, but I have been signing a lot of stuff recently in case people like signed stuff. That was a quick overview of the topics I was going to cover today, even though most of my time has been talking about Red Rising. Let's see. Giovanni says, will this game have the iconic windmill component that's in many of the Stonemaier games? I don't think there is a windmill in Red Rising. Unless Jackie snuck one into the art somewhere, but I don't think she did. Lee says, will this game be great with two? I designed this game with Alex to be great from 2 to 6 players. Tim says, have I listened to the audiobooks for Red Rising and can I recommend them? I highly recommend them. Yeah, the narrator does a fantastic job in the audiobooks for Red Rising. Yeah, definitely. John says, do the houses play differently or have different abilities or bonuses? Well said. Yeah, the different houses that you play in this game have light asymmetry and they are tied to a certain bonus that you can get throughout the game, depending on choices that you make. Yeah. David says, will the retail release have a different box cover? It'll have the same box cover except without Collector's Edition, without the foil here. I think it still has the spot UV and it doesn't have individual numbering, but same box art. Lucas says, did I read the Red Rising comics, the graphic novel, the Sons of Ares series? And yes, I have read it, and I would recommend them, but I wouldn't recommend them before you read the books. Read the books first, then read Sons of Ares. Yeah. Mohammed says, when will the playthroughs release? I don't know the exact day off the top of my head, but I believe advanced copy reviewers can start to share content about the game in mid-February, and then they can release their reviews in later February before the March pre-order. Dusty from the Mill says, I don't know how you resist just spoiling everything. I'm dying over here. Dusty is one of the people that has an advanced copy of the game, and Dusty, I appreciate you not revealing all the fun things as well. But we will do that. That's why, kind of like, so we don't use Kickstarter anymore. We don't do stretch goals, but the design diaries end up being kind of like stretch goals, where every day we're going to reveal one new thing that's in this game that we've already made. You don't have to wait for us to make this game. We've already made it so that we can ship it to you in about a month after the pre-order, a few weeks after the pre-order. So the design diaries are how we reveal, how we have that reveal. And if you don't like that format, if you just want to know everything that's in the game, just check back in 2 weeks and you'll know everything. That's when you can see everything that's in the game, everything about the game. Yeah, you can do either way, whatever way is more fun for you. Let's see. Lucas says, will shipping rates for Europe outside the United Kingdom go up? And currently, no, we don't have any plans to do that. If it ends up eventually costing more to do that, yeah, we'll have the rates reflect that additional price. But currently that's not the case, and we pay duties. If you live in Europe, we ship from the UK, but we pay the duties up front, so you don't have to. So Brexit does not impact ordering from Meyer Games. Sean says, how on earth did you keep calm last week when I asked if gold was Red Rising? It was hard not to spoil it. Definitely a lot of people guessed it, but because how much I've talked about my love for Red Rising. But yeah, today's the day I finally get to talk about that the game is actually Red Rising. Let's see. Jockton says, is it Stormlight Archive the next in your desired list for IP collaborations? I love the Stormlight Archive, but no, that isn't an IP that we're considering. Yeah, that I hope someone makes a game in the Stormlight Archive world, and I think there is a call to adventure for that with that IP. But no, we don't have any plans to work with that IP. As much as I love the books. Rachel says, can anyone post the link to the house survey? It's on the front page of if you go to the Red Rising page of the Meyer Games website, you'll see a big button that says, take the survey, the personality quiz. Tim says, what's my setup for these live videos and weekly podcasts? Joshua, someone who's been in the comments here, Joshua actually turns this content into a podcast. As for the videos, I just have a Vitade webcam set up on my desktop here. And then I download using, how do I download? I download using a website called GetFvid. I think that's getfacebookvid.com to turn this video into a video that I can then upload to YouTube. Gerald says, how many fans does this book have, and do you think this game might encourage them to try out board gaming? I hope so. Yeah, one of my goals for Red Rising is to introduce the books to gamers who don't know about the books, and to introduce gaming to fans of the books who maybe aren't gamers. I don't know how many fans the series has. I think you can look at the Red Rising. There's a Red Rising Facebook page, or maybe a Howler Facebook page, maybe one for Pierce. You can see that there are a lot of fans. I think it's probably in the hundreds of thousands of books that he's sold, and but I don't know. I never really asked for those numbers. Yeah, I don't know exactly. Tom says, is it just about the first book? The characters in this game are pulled from the first trilogy, not just the first book. Yeah. Aaron says, how difficult was it for you to break your one-word title trend with Red Rising? It was fine. Yeah, I don't know. I think my one concern is that people would confuse this with with games about Mars, uh, and because of the word red. But yeah, I mean the game was always going to be called Red Rising. I think because of the books, the names of the books. James says, "Will I be doing a before you play be doing a playthrough?" Yes, before you play is Monique and Naveen have one of the advanced copies, and they will be doing that definitely. Mario says, "Is there a particular reason why you chose these artists?" Yeah, I mean Justin did fan art for Red Rising, and so when I saw the fan art, I was like, "Wow, it'd be great to work with this guy who already knows these characters and is a very talented artist." And then Miles, I think, became a fan of the books and has also become a very talented artist. And I love working with Miles. He worked on Rolling Realms. And Jackie, I've worked with Jackie for a long time, and I thought Jackie's style, and when Justin was no longer really able to work on the characters, I thought Jackie's style would translate well to the characters that Justin had already worked on. Yeah. Kevin says you did a My Favorite Mechanism video on Fantasy Realms about 2 years ago when you said the design started. Is there a coincidence? I think I discovered Fantasy Realms a little bit before that. I just hadn't done a video about it, but no, I wouldn't say that's that much of a coincidence that I love Fantasy Realms and was inspired by it to co-design Red Rising with Alex. Patrick says, when will the Scythe Spiralbound rulebooks be back in stock? Probably in a few weeks. We're getting really close on that, really, really close. So we're just stay tuned and make sure you request a back in stock notification for that, and we will let you know very, very soon. Yeah. George says, have I been rock climbing since watching Dawn Wall? Dawn Wall is a recent fantastic documentary I watched. And I haven't been yet. I'm a little extra nervous right now with the new strains of the virus going around. A little extra nervous to go indoor rock climbing, but I hope to go soon. Maybe I'll double mask it and go. Chris says, do I have a deck builder in the pipeline? I'm always toying around with deck builders, and usually I get into the design. I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel thematically right that I'm doing this, and it turns into something else. But yeah, I have general ideas for deck builders and they usually, I don't know, like I said, they turn into something else. We're right at 11 o'clock here, so let me see if there are a few more questions here. Mark says, how often do you play your own games after they officially release? Whenever someone wants to play them with me, I am happy to play them. It really depends on how often that is, depending on the game. Let's see. Giovanni says, will the viticulture metal coins get restocked in the Stonemaier Games website sometime soon? I believe so. I think they are coming in pretty soon. I'll check on that. Again, request a back in stock notification, and we'll let you know when they are back in stock. I will check on that. Thank you for letting me know. I think I knew they were out of stock, though, but I just want to make sure. Christopher says, do you feel like you design differently when wanting to design a game around a mechanism or a board game theme compared to designing around an art like in Scythe or world like in Red Rising? I mean, there are little differences in the design. Like having the art inside was really helpful to inspire how I wanted the game to feel or how I thought the game should feel based on the art. Red Rising, I think one of the reasons I stumbled for so long to come up with a good design for it is that I was trying to force mechanisms. I was trying to go mechanism first at times instead of going theme first, world building first. So I had to change that a little bit. But in terms of brainstorming, it's often the same. I mash up a bunch of different stuff in pencil and paper as I brainstorm and try to figure out where to go with the game. That part is very similar. Uh, Matt says, do I set goals for how many copies you want to sell, money made, or other ways to measure the success of a new game? Not really. No. I mean, we just try to make the best game possible at a fair price with a great table presence, a good hook, all that stuff. And we're much more focused on you having a good time with the games that we play. That's the goal. I mean, that's the goal really, to bring joy to your tabletop. And so if that means that we sell 3,000 copies of a game and that brings joy to 3,000 tabletops, that's awesome. If it means that we sell, I don't know, 500,000 copies like Wingspan and we bring joy to a lot of people, that's even better. But I wouldn't say we go into it with that goal. Maybe the one goal that I do go into any game design with is I would like it to be an evergreen game. We put a lot of time and effort into our games. We don't want them to be games where we sell one print run and we're done. We want these to be games that people continue to play year after year and share with people year after year, and that we continue to reprint year after year because of all that effort and expense that we go into upfront. So there isn't like a set number, but evergreen is a goal of ours for every game. Mitchell says, how many games expansions is Stonemaier Games releasing this year? It's looking probably like 2 games and maybe 2 or 3 expansions. Yeah. Not for those, not expansions for those games, but expansions in general. Christoph says, will there be a collector's edition in other languages? Our localization partners have opted to make the standard version of the game, and if you want the upgrades for the collector's edition, you can order them from our web store. Yeah. Terrence says, is the game based on both trilogies, the first trilogy or the first book? It's based on the characters in this game are based on the first trilogy. Yeah. And then we don't have a planned expansion, but after Pierce finishes the 6th book, that's when Alex and I are going to look at the second trilogy and possibly design an expansion for the game. I would say it's fairly likely we're going to design an expansion for the game at that point. Yeah. Jesus says, I just logged on. Do you have plans to have the collector's edition licensed to other languages? Oh, yeah, just talked about that a second ago. You probably heard that answer. Kedrick says, is it Care Bear friendly? So Care Bear, I think, is a term that Rado, the reviewer Rado, uses. And Rado actually asked me about this. Rado was getting a review copy. It is not a take that game. There are things that you can do that impact your opponents, that give your opponents decisions. There's some positive player interaction. And there are things that you can do to impact your opponent's hand of cards, which is an important aspect of the game. Certain characters that do that. But by doing that, you are removing the character from your hand. So there's a tough choice always to make there. And if you are, I would say, the truest of Care Bears, you never want to impact your opponent. You can just keep those cards in your hand and build around those cards. And you can definitely win that way. That is a big part of the game, choosing which cards you want to keep in your hand. Yeah. Arthur says, can I provide an estimate of when Stonemaier will be accepting submissions of new games? Our submissions are currently open on our website, so you can post submissions there if you'd like. If you have a game that you think we should publish, that you want us to publish for us to consider, you can go ahead and do that now. Jay says the title font does not seem to be the same as the published books. We just chose a font that we thought would represent the game. It wasn't tied to any other use of that font elsewhere. Forley says, why didn't you name it The Red Rising, the board game? I don't know, that's kind of awkward phrasing. The Red Rising, the board game. It's just Red Rising. That's the name of the game, Red Rising. I think it's clear that this is not a book, so that's the main thing that you look for in trademarks. Dort says, did you also send review copies for written reviews or only for video content? We try to send a variety. I think many of them are videos, but there are at least 2 written reviewers, like blogging style reviewers, to whom we sent review copies. One of them for sure being Board Game Quest. I'm forgetting the other one off the top of my head. Nathan says, was the title always intended to be Red Rising? I would say yeah. Yeah, I don't think we really considered other titles for the game. Yeah, I'm a little over time here. I'll answer a few more questions here because I see a few more questions real quick. Jazz says, how accessible do I think this will be to new gamers? We designed it to be kind of to be accessible to people who knew Red Rising but aren't gamers. I would say it's a Gateway Plus game. There is a lot of text on the cards, and so there is, I would say, an adjustment period. When you start the game, it can feel a little bit overwhelming because there's a lot of text to read right off the bat. But you have plenty of time to read through that text. We use iconology to help you guide your way through that text. You have your house card to give you a little nudge in a certain direction if you want to go that direction, and so. I would say it is intended to be accessible to newer gamers. Yeah. Some spoiler questions here. What size will? Yeah, I'll go into the spoiler questions in the design diaries. Krista says, did I watch Free Solo yet? Not yet, but I definitely need to watch that in the next couple of days. Matt says, when did I decide that the game should be card driven? When Alex and I kind of clicked on the core mechanism of the game, that was in spring of 2019, I think. Dennis says, when will you do a fully space-themed game? Yeah, actually, people asked, am I doing a space-themed game? Red Rising is at least partially set in space. So this is probably the closest I'll get to a space-themed game, because space is not a theme that I seek to explore in games all that much. So this is probably our space-themed game, but maybe someday I'll do a full, all-out space-themed game. We'll see. Gary says, 2-player experience, ? Yes, this game plays at 2 players. We designed it to play really well from 2 to 6 players, and it also has a robust solo mode for 1 player. All right, I think I'm gonna cut it off here. And if you have any other questions that I missed, if you have questions that come up, feel free to post them on YouTube, the YouTube version of this video that I'll post in a few minutes, and I will be happy to answer there. That's where I get alerts for this game. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was a lot of fun to finally talk about Red Rising, and I look forward to revealing a lot more in the Design Diary posts in the coming weeks. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.